This is Grandma, and I'm going to give you a introduction to Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. Before we begin, I know you know that I was a teacher at one time, and I think you probably know at least one of the subjects that I used to teach. I used to teach German, but I also used to teach reading. And I taught reading to middle school and high school students because sometimes they have a difficulty reading and understanding what they've read. So my job was to teach them how to retain what they've read a little bit better. And one of the techniques that I use with my students, and I'm going to use with you, is called previewing. And I instructed them to do this before every chapter and before reading a book. To preview a book, you first of all look at the cover. And that cover will help your brain warm up to what the book is going to be about. Now, when you play sports like basketball or baseball, you warm up your muscles. You perhaps dribble the ball a couple times, take some practice swings, throw a ball to another player, catch a ball, and you're getting your brain and your body warmed up to play the best you can. Well, we need to do that with our brains before we start reading, whether it's reading a social studies textbook or reading a novel like Number the Stars. And what we do before we do that is we look at the pictures. So if you're reading a book, a textbook, thumb through the chapter and look at all the pictures. Read what's underneath the pictures. Look at the charts and graphs. With this book, we're going to look at just this one picture. And I'm going to ask you to tell me what this picture tells you about the book. I'll put it up close again. Do you think the main character is going to be a boy or a girl? Do you think this is going to be a book that is funny or a book that is perhaps a little sad? Look at the title, Number the Stars. Do you see any stars in this picture? Do you know what that star is called? That's called the Star of David, and it's a symbol of Judaism. Jewish people wear that star like Christians wear a cross. It's a sign of their religion. So we know that this book is going to be about a girl, and it's going to be a serious book, not a funny book. And somebody in the book is Jewish. We don't know if she's Jewish or if she has Jewish friends. One other thing that strikes me about this cover is the gold emblem right here. And what that says is that this is a Newbery Award winner. There are a lot of award shows, for instance, movies. There are Oscars for the best movie. There are Emmys for the best television show. And there are awards for books as well. And for books that young adults read or children read, there's the award is called Newbery. And this won the Newbery. Lois Lowry wrote 2 books that won the Newbery Award. This is one of the 2. So it's considered a classic. This is the 25th anniversary edition, which also is an indicator that this has been a very popular book for a very long time. Okay, the next thing we do after we look at the cover is we look at the back of the book and see what the back of the book has that will help our brains warm up to what the story is going to be about. In this case, it has a list of all the awards that this book has won. In addition to the Newbery, it's won an American Library Association notable book. Also, we have on the back here, we have reviews, what various people or organizations have said about the book. The School Library Journal says, the gripping story of a 10-year-old Danish girl and her family's courageous efforts to smuggle Jews out of their Nazi-occupied homeland to the safety in Sweden. Readers are taken to the very heart of Anne Marie's experience and through her eyes come to understand the true meaning of bravery. So this tells us this is not a story that happened today. It's a story that happened during World War II, which is in the 1940s. It's also a story about a Danish girl. So it's not an American girl, it's a girl from the country Denmark. Does anybody know where Denmark is? I know you study your geography well. Denmark is a country just north of Germany, and it's across from Sweden and Norway and Finland. It's still considered a Scandinavian country, just like they are. The thing about Denmark is their language is closer to English than, say, Swedish is. It's kind of a combination between English and German because Denmark is also across from England. So when I'm reading the book, I'm going to be reading it with a German pronunciation, not an American pronunciation. So just now I told you that the name of the main character is Anne Marie. Well, I'm going to probably be pronouncing it Anna Marie or Anna Maria because that's how it would be pronounced in German and probably how it would be pronounced in Danish. So we know that the book takes place in the 1940s during a war, that it takes place in Denmark, and the main character's name is Anna Maria. We also know that it's through her eyes, which means that she's going to be telling the story. The next thing we do when we preview a book is we read this part here, and this usually gives us a pretty good summary. I'm not going to read all of this because I really think that this that I read back here on the Library Journal will give us pretty much what we need to have. Next thing you do when you preview a book is you look at the table of contents and we see how many chapters are in the book. It starts out with an introduction. Now, an introduction normally means most people would probably read the introduction first, but I never do. I always wait to read the introduction. The introduction is the author telling you some background about why and how they wrote the story. It also includes thank yous to people that have helped write the story or have told them information that they used in the story. And it doesn't really become very meaningful to me until after I've started to know the characters better and the story better. So I always save the introduction, sometimes until after I've read the book. There are 17 chapters in this book, and it looks like each chapter runs about 10 pages each. Some of the chapter titles are Why Are You Running? Who is the Man Who Rides Past? Where is Mrs. Hirsch? Now, this is important because questions, as we read, help us absorb more information. When we read, we are really should be interacting with the book and with the author. So, why are you running? Who is the man who rides past? Where is Mrs. Hirsch? If we read those questions ahead of time, then that means when we are reading the story, we will be trying to look for the answers to those questions. Okay, next is the introduction, and like I told you, it's written by the author. And then we begin with chapter 1. Why are you running? I'll race you to the corner, Ellen. Anna Maria adjusted the thick leather pack on her bag so her school books balanced evenly. Ready? She looked at her best friend. Ellen made a face. No, she said, laughing. You know I can't beat you. My legs aren't long. Can't we just walk like civilized people? She was a stocky 10-year-old, unlike lanky Anna Maria. Stocky. Stocky must mean she was not very tall, and because it says her legs aren't long enough. Now what I'm doing now is I'm doing what is known as a read-aloud. When we're reading a book, we should pause every now and then and ask ourselves questions, and especially if we're having trouble with vocabulary, if we don't understand the meaning of a word. I don't really think it's a good idea to immediately go to a dictionary and look up the meaning. If you're reading on a Kindle, sometimes you can highlight that word and look it up in the dictionary right away. And that's important, but what's just as important is to continue reading and try and and guess what that word means. So that's what I just did with the word stocky. Now, let me read it again for you. You know I can't beat you, my legs aren't long. Can't we just walk like civilized people? She was a stocky 10-year-old, unlike lanky Anna Maria. So maybe it's lanky that you don't understand the meaning of. Well, we know that lanky is going to be the opposite of stocky. So we have a picture in our mind now of Ellen, who is short and perhaps a little bit chubby, and Anna Maria, who is tall and thin. Continuing with the story. We have to practice for the athletic meet on Friday. I know I'm going to win the girls' race this week. I was second last week, but I've been practicing every day. Come on, Ellen, Anna Maria pleaded, eyeing the distance to the next corner of the Copenhagen street. Please. Okay, Copenhagen Street. Copenhagen. Wonder if that's the name of, it's not the name of the country because we know that's Denmark. Wonder if that's the name of the city where they live. Ellen hesitated, then nodded and shifted her own rucksack of books against her shoulders. Oh, all right. Ready, she said. Go, shouted Anna Maria, and the two girls were off, racing along the residential sidewalk. Anna Maria's silvery blonde hair flew behind her, and Ellen's dark pigtails bounced against her shoulders. Okay, now we have a better picture of the girls. We have Ellen, who is short, squat, with dark pigtails, and we have Anna Maria, who's tall, thin, has silvery blonde hair. Who do you think is pictured on the cover here? Do you think it's Ellen or Anna Maria? Wait for me, wailed little Kirsty, left behind, but the two older girls weren't listening. So we have a third character now, somebody who's smaller than them, but walking with them. Anna Maria outdistanced her friend quickly, even though one of her shoes came untied as she sped along the street called Osterbrogade, past the small shops and cafes of her neighborhood here in northeast Copenhagen. Ah, I'm right. Copenhagen is a city. Laughing, she skirted an elderly lady in black who carried a shopping bag made of string. A young woman pushing a baby in a carriage moved aside to make way. The corner was just ahead. Anna Maria looked up, panting as she reached the corner. Her laughter stopped. Her heart seemed to skip a beat. Halte! The soldier ordered in a stern voice. The German word was as familiar as it was frightening. Anna Maria had heard it often enough before, but had never been directed at her until now. Behind her, Ellen also slowed and stopped. Far back, little Kirsty was plodding along, her face in a pout because the girls hadn't waited for her. Halte. Even if you had a Kindle dictionary, you may not know what that word is because it's not an English word, it's a German word. We have a word in English that is very similar to it. So let's figure out what it means in English. The girls are running. They see soldiers standing on the corner, and the soldiers yell Halte, and the girls immediately slow down and stop with big eyes. Halte means halt or stop in German. Anna Maria stared up. There were two of them. That meant two helmets, two sets of cold eyes glaring at her, and four tall, shiny boots planted firmly on the sidewalk, blocking her path to home. And it meant two rifles gripped in the hands of the soldiers. She stared at the rifles first, then finally she looked into the face of the soldiers, who ordered her to halt. "Why are you running?" the harsh voice asked. His Danish was very poor. 3 years, Anna Maria thought with contempt. 3 years they've been in our country, and still they can't speak our language. I was racing with my friend," she answered politely. "We have races at school every Friday, and I want to do well, so I—" Her voice trailed away, the sentence unfinished. "Don't talk so much," she told herself. "Just answer them, that's all." She glanced back. Ellen was motionless on the sidewalk, a few yards behind her. Farther back, Kirsty was still sulking and walking slowly toward the corner. Nearby, a woman had come to the doorway of a shop and was standing silently, watching. One of the soldiers, the taller one, moved toward her. Anna Maria recognized him as the one she and Ellen always called in whispers the giraffe, because of his height and the long neck that extended from his stiff collar. He and his partner were always on the corner. He prodded the corner of her backpack with the stock of his rifle. Anna Maria trembled. "What is in here?" he asked loudly. From the corner of her eye, she saw the shopkeeper move quietly back into the shadows of the doorway, out of sight. "School books," she answered truthfully. "Are you a good student?" the soldier asked. He seemed to be sneering. "Yes." "What is your name?" "Anna Maria Johansson." "Your friend, is she a good student too?" He was looking behind her at Ellen, who hadn't moved. Anna Maria looked back too and saw that Ellen's face, usually rosy-cheeked, was pale, and her dark eyes were wide. What do you think Ellen is thinking right now? She's pale, her dark eyes are wide, and she is motionless. She nodded at the soldier. "Better than me," she said. "What is her name?" "Ellen." "And who is this?" he asked, looking to Anna Maria's side. Kirsty had appeared there suddenly, scowling at everyone. "Oh, my little sister." She reached down for Kirsty's hand, but Kirsty, always stubborn, refused it and put her hand on her hips defiantly. The soldiers reached down and stroked her little sister's short, tangled curls. "Stand still, Kirsty," Anna Maria ordered silently, praying that somehow the obstinate 5-year-old would receive the message. So now we know that Kirsty is Anna Maria's little sister. She's just 5 years old. But Kirsty reached up and pushed the soldier's hand away. "Don't," she said loudly. Both soldiers began to laugh. They spoke to each other in rapid German. that Anna Maria couldn't understand. "She's pretty like my own little girl," the tall one said in a more pleasant voice. Anna Maria tried to smile politely. "Go home, all of you. Go study your school books and don't run. You look like hoodlums when you run." The two soldiers turned away. Quickly, Anna Maria reached down and grabbed her sister's hand before Kirsty could resist. Hurrying the little girl along, she rounded the corner. In a moment, Ellen was beside her. They walked quickly, not speaking, with Kirsty between them, toward the large apartment building where both families lived. When they were almost home, Ellen whispered suddenly, "I was so scared." Was that what you thought she was feeling when I described her standing motionless, pale, with big eyes? She was frightened. "Me too," Anna Maria whispered back. As they turned to enter their building, both girls looked straight ahead toward the door. They did it purposely so that they would not catch the eyes or the attention of two more soldiers who stood with their guns on this corner as well. Kirsty scurried ahead of them through the door, chattering about the pictures she was bringing home from kindergarten to show Mama. For Kirsty, the soldiers were simply part of the landscape, something that had always been there on every corner, as unimportant as lampposts through her remembered life. We're going to stop, but remember, Kirsty's only 5 years old, and Anna Maria said that the soldiers had been there for 3 years. So Kirsty doesn't know any different. She doesn't know what it's like not to have the soldiers on every corner. Okay, so we're going to pause here, and we will read more of the story with the next